I'm going to start here, and we're going to run a quick test. Okay, I'm running a quick test. Let's see how it sounds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, guys, let's head on. Oh, I got the camera the wrong way. Let's head on that. I need to get some feed out of the car. At least I'm going to drive the car around and we'll take the feed there.
Is there still feed in there?
Yeah, we didn't take, I left the 2 bags in there from yesterday. So I'm being lazy and I don't feel like carrying the 2 50-pound bags to the back of the barn. So we are going to just drive it around because I'm just feeling lazy. So I hope everyone is doing well today. I'm super excited to see all the new people on DLive that everybody's been bringing. Mostly Owen, but I have seen that there's quite a few other people that are now getting on DLive. So that's also super exciting. Just for sake of ease, I'm going to pop this right in here. A minute. Okay. Where's he break off? So I'm a hypermiler, so I try not to start the car until I absolutely have to. So that's why I roll out of my driveway. So if you're watching this on my Out the Window Weather channel, which I think most people usually don't, please jump over to the X Dr. Firefly. I just have that. That's the easiest way for me to do the 2 channels so that I can do it from my phone and still use OBS and not really screw anything up. So today, this will be episode 5. Mostly going to talk a little bit more about why we raise chickens, why we raise the guineas, the importance of having the different types of fowl that you're choosing to have. Watch out, bunnies. And why I got into raising chickens and all that good stuff. Okay, so as you see, it wasn't super far, just driving kind of just around. Let me spin this around. There's one of the bunnies right there, just topping around. And here come some guineas. And in just a second, because they helped me pull up, we will have a ton of ducks and a bunch of other stuff appearing over here soon. Yeah, sorry, you'll notice it's a little bit of a mess. And I'll be honest, if you have a farm or a homestead and you don't have places around that's a mess, you either have way too much time on your hand or you are very well staffed, and I am super jealous because I am always working on a project, and as soon as I start on one project, something else breaks and leads me to have to mainly focus on another project that I wasn't purposely trying to focus on. So I am going to, I need to get that feed, so I'm going to, I didn't have this set up very well. I don't normally put my phone down over here. So let's see if I can get it to stay right there. Truth be told, probably not, because the chicken will probably jump up and get it. But we'll go with that for just a minute, so I can get this feed out of my car, and so you guys can still hear me. So, if what you can see in the yard is you're seeing a lot of ducks, because most of our larger animals free range. Most of our larger animals we have so they can free range, so they can get what they need by nature and be able to eat bugs and mice and insects and snakes and such like that. And we also have a fairly decent amount of cover here now, because I've spent the last couple of years making sure I worked on the cover. The smaller guys are our silkies and our bantams. They're actually inside the barn, which you will see in just a few minutes. We keep those inside because when we first started raising chickens, we started off with just bantams, just because they require such a less food consumption. And because of that, they were far more vulnerable. They were far more vulnerable to the predator that we have here. So we have them. We have those in modular cages, and the cages are set up so that we can move them. We can move them around. But for those that are new, you'll be able to see that in just a minute. Let me just drop both of this off. Let me get all these guys out here a little bit of food so they don't end up following me in and tripping under my feet, because that's normally what ends up happening. So right here where we're standing on, you're going to hear me open this door. This is our bunny barn. This is where we have a lot of the bunnies that we've rescued throughout the course of the years. As people got rid of rabbits and such like that, we rescued them so that they would have a good life. If you are going to homestead and you're going to eat your own food, and you definitely, if you're going to eat your own meat and such, you really do want to get rabbits. Rabbits are a spectacular food source. They are easy to take care of. They don't require a lot of space. And rabbit meat is very, very good. Do I eat any of my rabbits? We do not. My significant other, she is a vegetarian, and we don't, but I do raise rabbits for other folks to raise and butcher, and if that's something that someone else chooses to do, spectacular. And it's even more spectacular if they want to share some of the meat with me so that I can eat it as well. And I can also, I function very much in the barter system, so a lot of times if there's something I need, I will barter it up. I used to be far more, let me shut the door of my car. I used to be far more self-sufficient than I currently am right now. I used to be able to do roughly about 80 to 90% of all my food here. Some interesting things happened over the last couple years, and it made me backtrack a little bit, but I'm working again towards becoming more sustainable. So let's I'm gonna head into the barn now, and so I can carry the food and such in, and I'm just gonna kind of stage the camera in different areas because it's really hard to carry feed bags and a camera. One of these days I maybe if I get one of those little chest things. So here's the barn. So all of these cages can be sent outside and can be put into fresh area so that they'll have fresh grass and they can consume the grass. The other thing is it's really good for preparing future garden spots. The chickens do a good job of eating up a lot of the seeds, then they poop and then they fertilize, and then even some of their eggs and feathers break and add a lot of nutrients back down to the soil. So I'm actually going to set the camera up just right over here, and I will be back. You'll see me carrying stuff in just a second. You know, it's actually, having a place out in the country, it's not quite as hard as you think it is, especially if you pick some of the areas that are kind of forgotten. We're here in southern West Virginia, and land is very inexpensive. I mean, it's not free or anything, but it's very, very inexpensive. And with just a few techniques, you can really increase. I'm going to set this here so that we can open that up and we can get a good mix. So we can get the good mix, because this is laying mesh Lisa, and the other one is seeds. I have a wife, husband, children, or if you don't have any of that at the particular moment, because you're too young or just in that situation where you haven't found the right. If you have a couple friends that's willing to join you on your adventures, multiple people make this so much easier. We plan on trying to, we're actually trying to put together something like a tiny house so we can have interns next year, because that would be super, super helpful when it comes to some of the crazy events that happen. Because every once in a while, like this time of year, we have to really be concerned with ice storms, and the ice storms can really affect our everyday adventures here on the farm. Like last year, the ice storm that hit actually decimated like 3 of my fruit trees, and that was very depressing because they were really good fruit trees. Let me know if the sound breaks up again, because I think it was breaking up because I was walking in and out of the barn, and now that I'm in here, maybe it won't. If it does keep breaking up, I will go back to the house and make sure that the connection is set up the way it's supposed to. Well, I was just going in and out of the barn, and I was getting pretty far away from the phone when I had to pick up the food, so I'm guessing that could have actually been causing it. But remember, I'm also restreaming a restream, so there's also that chance too. We don't have scissors in here right now, do we? Okay, yes, please. Thank you. So when it comes to raising chickens, here's your knife back. When it comes to raising chickens, if you're new to the chicken world, I would suggest starting off with silkies or another type of small bantam. You're going to enjoy the personality of your chicken. You're really going to understand how the chicken, and those chickens, especially bantam, or especially silkies, and I'll show you a silkie in just a second. Especially silkies, they're very forgiving. Hey, you're always being really good at standing right in front of the camera. Silkies are really good at forgiving if you make some mistakes.
Anticipating audience. Pilot begins.
Okay.
A wall of ducks on me.
Yeah. Okay, so I got both of these off. Do we want to just... So as soon as I put this feed in there, I will grab a silkie and I will show you what a silkie looks like. So we're on the process of trying to figure out how to make our own feed. We've got some pretty good ideas, but right now it's just more cost effective for us to, unfortunately, go to the store and buy feed. But we've done some research, and we've grown a handful of plants that will actually be really good. So we also mix our own feed. We also buy a variety of different types of feeds. The feed that I've noticed does the best is you get some laying mesh or laying pellets that's typically designed for chickens. And then you just get another bag of mostly just bird seed. So just regular type of like bird seed. And then that's what the laying mesh. So we take that and we try to mix that together. I would say 60-40 is what the desire is, but it's just kind of what it turns out to be. So I'm going to peek onto here for just a second just to make sure that my channel, my DLive channel is still up and functioning, because sometimes it does silly things. Okay. Chicken feeding time. Okay, I told you guys I was going to show you, some silkies. So this is a silkie. If you notice that their feathers, why are we? Give me just a second. Let me close this. I think I'm using too much data. Okay. Anyways, okay. So this is a silkie. As you can see, their feathers connect different than other type of chicken feathers. They also this is the size egg you get. I don't know if I've got anything to give you a fair comparison. Here's a typical scooper. So it's about half the size of a farm fresh egg. Okay. I don't have anything else really.
That was just a strange thing to compare it to.
Well, most people might know what a scooper looks like.
Sure, but
and also, if you're watching it on the on X Dr. Firefly, I'll show you where it is. That is the camera is right there. So this was a rescue chicken, but she's actually really good. These roosters that we have, and we also have multiple roosters. So we usually keep a handful of roosters that live together. We've noticed that if roosters grow up together, they do a fairly good job of not fighting so much. Like there's a rooster there, and there's a rooster there, and I think there's one over that way as well. So I'm going to let Lisa finish some more in here. I'm going to go feed the bunnies real fast, so you guys can come with me as we go feed the bunnies. So 15 years ago, I moved here to southern West Virginia because I was tired of living in the suburbs. And I grew up in the inner city, and then when I was a teenager, early college years, we moved in the suburbs. So there's my house. It's a 1897 Queen Anne Victorian. And I brag about that because old houses, while they need a whole lot of work and they are very, very time consuming, the quality is absolutely spectacular. You can see how much time and energy and love was put into building the house, and it shows with the way things function with it. So now we're in our bunny barn. And so how our bunny barn is set up, we always have a fan blowing because there needs to be good air circulation in here. We have right there, that's just kind of to let if I ever have anybody come and help us out or things of that sort, that's just some additional information. That side right there is actually telling you what rabbits are in which cage. And like I said, in the future, we're putting together programming so that I can have interns, so folks that want to come and actually learn hands-on and do it for 6 months, a year, or a longer commitment to that. We can work together. I will really appreciate the help, and it also gets somebody that's young that maybe doesn't have access to the farming skills, getting them just immersed right into it so that they can make the decision if this is something they really want to dedicate the rest of their life for, or dedicate an extended period of time. The other really big perk for anybody that's young or knows anybody young about getting and learning about being homesteading and farming and things of that sort is that there is a lot of homesteaders and farmers and even just things of that sort that are always looking for someone that is skilled, that can babysit their farm for 6 months or more. I do not eat the rabbits, but the rabbits we do have are edible. And if I sold these rabbits to someone and they butchered them and gave them back to me in a barter or something of that sort, yes, I would eat them. And I do suggest if you do have animals, eating them. So, and yeah, he just said everything that I needed, or they just said everything that needed to be said about me raising them. But with the homesteading and teaching people how to do this, young people are always looking for trusted individuals like me and Lisa. We haven't. When I had to get new license tags for my car, long story short, I do it in a different state. When I had to get different license tags for my car, we had to spend the night away. And so it was a huge headache. To get people to help make sure the animals are all fed and things of that sort. I have a really tough time killing animals. It is one of the hardest things for me that there is to do. Now, once it's dead, that changes the entire story. Since I spend all of this time putting my energy into keeping them alive, there is just something, it's probably a fault, and I will accept that. There's just something really hard for me to take away that energy and such. So and I have the utmost respect for folks that humanely kill their animals and know how to balance that out in their spirit and their mind. Oh, roadkill elk. Oh, I love elk. Elk is probably one of my favorite meats. I have a handful of friends that when they go out hunting, they always save me a little bit of elk. It is great. Yeah, elk's just spectacular. Now, that being said, there has been a handful of times that I've had to, because my animals were sick or for injured or stuff like that, that I have had to humanely kill them. And that was a very emotional time for me because I knew that taking their life energy because they were injured or they were going to suffer was the proper thing to do. It just was a really hard way to go because, we all want to give things the best life possible and to keep things as happy as we possibly can. And just knowing something was not going to make it and not wanting it to suffer was rather difficult. Well, thanks, man. If you're ever here in Southern West Virginia, stop on by. People are always welcome to swing by the farm and see what's going on and have some coffee and have some tea and drink a couple beers, have some moonshine, whatever's up your alley. I usually have it all. In the very near future, I used to run a bed and breakfast, so in the very near future, we're actually going to be building some cabins and such because I want more people to be able to come here and experience it and spend the night or two and just get in their hands dirty and try things that they've never tried before. So that is actually where we're going to be expanding at in the very near future. The first expansion is I'm buying a building because I need an educational building to do some teaching. And once I have that, I'll be eligible for some grants. So that's my first step. But right after that first step, or if I get some interns that want to do some sustainable building and such, then we'll be building some cabins or some off-grid stuff. And for those that keep hearing me say sustainable, don't think necessarily like the Green New Deal sustainable. The word sustainable as in being able to keep things the way they are and to slightly improve. Yeah, we can, I've made moonshine here twice. One of my friends is supposed to bring me over a still again. We can legally make 1 gallon per adult person in our household. And since my parents ended up having to move in here, I have plenty of adults to make plenty of moonshine here legally without any regulations. Well, cool. Thanks for watching, dude. It was a cool, thank you for sending me that lunar wave picture, that video. I watched a little bit of it, but I really want to sit down and watch the whole thing with the other parts of the documentary you added. So I'm very excited. Thank you for giving me something to watch a little bit later today. Also, for those, I'm going to try to do these videos, if not daily, as close to daily as possible, just because it's just fun. You get to experience a little bit of what it's like, the everyday grind, and just help you decide if it's something that you really want to start moving towards. One of the things that
Your official home of the James Monroe Maverick. This is classic hits.
I would be very interesting in the high ethanol yeast. So I'm very, very interested in that. So thank you for the diamond, man. Thank you. And anytime, I'll just also let you guys know, anytime you have a channel, you're welcome to put your channel description in the link and just share it. The more of us that can build community, share your channel so other people that are watching, they might know about your channel and jump on in. Don't ever feel bad about doing that. That is perfectly okay in my channel. So also, when you're talking about the high octane yeast and such, I do a lot of kombucha brewing and apple cider vinegar and water kefir, and I'm on the process of doing some ginger beer and some root beer in the very near future. We've also captured some yeast to make some sourdough bread. We have bees. We had some awesome honey this year, but I pretty much lost most of my bees this year. I've got some major new tactics to try next year, which once the spring comes, I will be doing video after video of raising bees and being involved with the bees and such. Yeah, that is awesome, dude. And when I say dude, that's just referring to everyone. So I'm not trying to gender anyone because I live in West Virginia and people don't know what the difference is. So no, I'd love to see your channel, and I'd love to see anything that you're willing to share. I've learned so much from other people that showed me little hints. Yes, I do. I usually always do second fermentation with my kombucha because I don't flavor my first kombucha. And I don't use tea in most of my kombucha either. I actually use yerba mate because it has more of an even tone to it. And it doesn't, and you don't have to worry about the spike that you may meet some people that can't have the caffeine, so it doesn't add that spike. And plus with the second brewing of the kombucha, that's when I can really get in there and add some good You can get some really good flavors, or I can get some blueberries, or I can get some local berries and add them in there and really play around with the flavor profile. Right now, because I just taught a class on kombucha in November, and everybody got to walk away. We went through a class in the workshop, and everybody got to walk away with their own start. Because I'm just trying to, here in Appalachia, not a lot of people really are into that, and I'm trying to get people off of pop or folks that are trying to look for other alternatives. But middle of the summer, I had close to about 50. Yeah, I had roughly about 50 scovies started and functioning. So it was my cupboard, my entire like counter was just mason jars full of things. So I ended up having to condense them down to a hotel. I also like to really sometimes, like this time of year, I'll actually slow down my kombucha doing, and I'll get my mother so they're roughly about this thick. That way, if I ever need to slice them up. Yes. It's funny. I brewed some kombucha about a month ago, and I filled up the bottle and I drank about half of it, and then I just forgot it and left it on the counter. And so it was about half full in a snap top, in one of those, beer snap tops. And I went to open it, and it was so fizzy. You would have thought that it was a like super carbonated pop, just from having it sit there for about a month on the counter, about half full. So I try not to do that because I've had them just shoots crazy up in the sky before. I think I'll do a video in the near future where I'll just go through all the steps. We'll do a D-Live video where I'll just go through all the steps and teach people how to do kombucha, because I think it's a really good alternative to add when you're trying to do stuff. I have fed some of the older scovies. I've tried to make gummy bears out of the scovies. There is a vegan actually told me, not one of those militarily crazy vegans, but a vegan once told me that SCOBY is how they make how they'll deal with like stuff with gelatin and such. So I learned that from them, and ever since then I actually kind of like using the extra SCOBYs, the really thick ones, to make a different type of gelatin, or to make gummy bears, or just tried a bunch of different stuff with it. I've tried to cook with it, like treating it like tofu, and it doesn't really work. It was just a fun experiment to see. And sometimes I'll just eat it on its own because I don't have a problem with textures. So just double checking to make sure I've actually gave everybody food, because I'm in here talking and want to make sure that the guys are all fed. Looks like. Yeah, and so what I do is, if I want to grow a nice, really thick one, I will start my first brew, and I will get it. I'll get the room just pumping really nice and warm. I'll actually add a little bit more sugar, or simple syrup is what I use. I add a little bit more simple syrup, and then I'll just let it sit in there for like a month and a half, and you will just see the SCOBY grow, and it makes really nice thick one. And then you can do a lot of stuff, like if you get it thick enough, you can actually punch out little designs and such like that. So if you want to trick people, or you just want to get people to eat the SCOBY, or if it's just easier for you to eat something that doesn't look like a crazy mat. And the reason I say trick people is there's a lot of times that I sometimes have to not tell people what we're eating, because their first gut reaction is, ew, gross, or I'm not going to do that. But once they have it, they realize that they actually really like it. So that's like, if I'm going to try something new, I usually don't ask anybody what it is. I usually try it. And then if I like it, I'll ask it. If I don't like it, I'll still ask. But I try not to let the idea of what it is let my mind prejudge what it is. So another key thing about when you're raising animals is water, and we carry 5 gallon jugs around with our water. I have a lot of respect for those folks in Africa that have to carry the water everywhere they go, because whew, sometimes I am thankful that in the house I do not have to deal with carrying water around. Also, I wanted to let you know, if you have doing kombucha and a SCOBY, there is a really interesting recipe to make your own ginger beer and to make your own root beer, and using that as the yeast, in lieu of the yeast, I should say. And you're gonna pretty much brew it up like you do a second fermentation, anyways. And then one of my friends was telling me about trying to do a SCOBY with champagne, trying to make like a champagne wine type thing with a SCOBY. I've not really spent any time doing that. I've read the recipe, and it's very interesting. I'm just not sure exactly how much it actually works, but I'm all about experiments. I love learning how not to do stuff, because then I can share that with others and give my experiences. And sometimes you learn cool new tricks from not doing something right. Water. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna actually try to Curtis Stone on YouTube. He is a urban farmer in BC, and he just did a video not too long ago, or I stumbled across a video not too long ago, about ginger farming and how to grow ginger. And I am totally going to put together a greenhouse and probably even put a little bit of heat in it. And I'm totally going to focus on trying to grow a bunch of fresh ginger next year, because I use a lot of ginger, and if I can make a pretty large crop of ginger, and the yields that he was saying seem possible, sound pretty amazing. Okay. Yeah, I've made wine, I've made beer. I'm going to next year, when I get that still here functioning, I'm going to make some absinthe, because absinthe is probably my favorite alcohol of all times. I like it, and certain types of gin. I like those because of all the herbs and botanicals that are added into it. Yes, ginger goes a long way. That is why it is such a spectacular herb. So I have been perfecting my orchid growing, so that in the very near future I can start growing vanilla too in the house, and that's something that I will also be adding into that mix. But I really wanted to focus on perfecting other types of orchids first, since it's really vanilla is pretty much in the orchid family. It grows very similar, if it's not exactly in the orchid family. Also, there's also a lot of stuff, like I've made some really interesting kombuchas too, because okay, yeah, my significant other, she was Lisa, the one you saw. She used to be an artisan baker, and so she worked in a high capacity bakery, and so she knows a whole lot about yeast and a lot about breaking bread. And so a lot of times, if it's coming to something like that, even with brewing, she'll know what the yeast is going to do. So that is very, very helpful. What I was saying about the kombucha, I've also made some really interesting kombucha. We have staghorn sumac here. If I could pick one herb, what would it be? Wow, that's a tough one. I would probably have to say turmeric. Turmeric is probably, I use turmeric in so many different things that I would say it's probably my go-to. And now if you're talking local, I'm going to have to say dandelion. I use dandelion for my chickens. I use dandelion to eat myself. I've made coffee out of dandelion root. So yeah, I'd love to say cannabis, but I have, if it's got too high of a THC level in it, I have a slight reaction to it. So I do take a CBD oil that is 0.001% THC, and it still gives me a little mess in the back of my throat. So okay, so what I do with staghorn sumac is you've got that nice cone that you actually, if you've never done it, if you take that nice cone of the staghorn sumac and you stick it in water, and this is how I make it for putting into kombucha. I'll stick that in water and I'll get that so it turns like a bright red. Then I'll filter it out once because it'll have these little tiny little like needles or hairs in it. So I'll filter out once and then I'll make another concentrate of that, and I'll really get that concentrated, and I'll use that, and it has like a pink lemonade or sweet lemonade taste to it. Yeah, I have not taken a Criton yet, or Craton. I really am interested in trying to get raw, like the leaves, the plants, the things of that sort. I want to understand the plant at how it grows and where it chooses to live in its environment before I'd start consuming it at any process levels from that. I like to try to really understand my plants before I put them in my body, because some just need to be done slightly different ways. And for some people, it's also going to vary. Like my significant other, she uses cannabis to help with her migraines and to help with some of her other stuff. And it is great. And it is a lifesaver for her. I know other people. Okay, it's a tree. I know other people that maybe don't have such as good luck with it. So, I mean, right now cannabis is still illegal here in West Virginia, unfortunately. So, we have a tough time finding the seeds that we need to make good quality, to make trusted quality cannabis. I prefer the idea of having it grown in the ground and the idea of being able to control the soil. While I understand the hydroponic aspect, and I may be very interested in trying that again in the future. Right now, we're kind of at the mercy of the silliness. Of having a plant be illegal. So. One other thing is, if you grow your own plants, I don't care if you're growing indoor plants or outdoor plants, having rabbits and rabbit poop and rabbit hay and things of that sort, there is probably not a better slow release fertilizer. You can't see it very well, but there's a couple rabbit poops. What's great is you can just like slightly bury them into plants or even in your potted plants, and and as you water it, it'll actually do a slow release of great fertilizer back into your plants and such. It's pretty amazing. So, I mean, even if you have an indoor bunny, because we have 2 indoor bunnies, even if you have an indoor bunny, it's a great thing to do to really increase the fertilizer and such into your plants. So let me fill this up. I got an outdoor bunny that needs a little bit of food and some water. So it depends on if the plant's already established, I just take a couple pellets and I just stick it right into the soil. If it's a young plant and it's just starting to establish, then I will actually water that down and I'll make it more of like a tea. And then I'll pour that into the soil that I'm mixing up and making, and then I'll go that route just in case I'm afraid it's going to burn it out by being too strong. But if it's like on my garden or something like that, I'll just broadcast it down, or I'll just stick it down. After I feed this guy, we'll walk around to one of my garden plots that I've already started preparing for the winter, and I think you can still see the rabbit poop in one of the tactics that I do there. So let's get this and head on over that way. It's actually a spectacular day. So luckily, most of the chemtrails are burned off. But man, this morning, the chemtrails were crazy. I am in southern West Virginia. So it's the very bottom of the state. So if you really want to Google map where I live, you can just Google map Mavis Manor. And I have no problem with people knowing where I live. I own plenty of guns. Come visit me, be my friend. Be warned if you... Let's see if that screwed anything up. It did not. Okay, so I had a phone call coming in and didn't want to lose it. I don't know. I think what I was saying was probably negative, so I'll leave it. I'll skip that. But yeah, it's this morning, there was a lot of X's and such in the sky. But right now, it's very, very beautiful. The other great thing I will just mention about West Virginia is West Virginia is open carry, and it is also probably the most liberal castle laws, and liberal as in the real meaning of, like, in the castle laws, I can actually yell to my neighbor and tell them I need help, and my neighbor could discharge his firearm and protect me from a distance, and that would be perfectly acceptable because I gave them permission to protect me or my land. So that is that's actually told by the police department, our sheriff department, during a county meeting down here, that was allowed because that was asked. Got a lot of older folks living around here, and sometimes they can't get to their firearm, or sometimes they're trapped in their house, or maybe they're still in bed. And so that was an ask, if we can make phone calls and call neighbors, and if neighbors are allowed to also protect our land. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, West Virginia, with all the bad and negative that it gets, it's actually, most of the state is really, really good. Like, I actually don't have to have any type of license to open carry a gun as long as I put a gun on my hip. And it's visible. I don't need to have anything special. If I want to do concealed, then I have to go through the class, but it's pretty much a really simple class and then a very small, just to see how accurate you are with the gun. And I can do it. I do a lot of work with the park services, the local state park here, and so they have the classes every once in a while. So if I ever had the desire to do that, I totally could jump down. I'm trying to get my significant other. I'm trying to get her to get a little bit more proficient at guns. So I'm going to flop the camera around here. So these are outdoor, of course. These are what I call my city lots. These are actually built right on top of an old gravel road. I've put a lot of chicken hay, and that's just hay that you take out of the chicken coop. A lot of bunny hay, that's just cleaning out their bedding and such like that. I put some hay down, and then I put some leaves. And the reason I put the oak leaves on the top is because oak leaves take a little bit longer to biodegrade, and so they'll actually lock in a lot of stuff. Oh, there are absolutely issues with West Virginia. There are lots of crazy issues with the state. I do a lot of work. I do a lot of mission work with some of the local churches and things of that sort to deal with some of the hidden such that happens around here. But that being said, that's about everywhere. We just happen to have the media coverage. The one thing, though, is that the people here aren't hopeless. Usually, if you teach them and you show them skills and you get them unhooked off of the drugs, or you get them to reconnect to something that they love, we can counteract. We've seen the counteraction of the opiate crisis and such like that reversed pretty easily. So this is a garden plot that I've just lightly prepared because all of this right here is some future rutabaga that's all coming up, and rutabaga actually really likes cold to start blooming. So there's that. And then this is where I plant. In here is where I plant potatoes every year, and so I like a lot of dirt. I don't even mind the grass because it's going to get turned up and such like that. So what I also do here is, if you look, you can actually see closely. You can see all the chicken poop or the rabbit poop that's just kind of lightly put on the surface. I put that on the surface because I know that throughout the course of next year, I'm actually gonna to cycle that back around. Burn it? I have. I haven't noticed, except for if the soil is really, really bad, I haven't noticed a whole lot of benefits to burning it other than providing heat and maybe adding a little bit back to the soil. But once I've really started repairing the soil and spending a lot of time, I haven't needed to burn it for those reasons. So this is one of the swells. So I do a lot of permaculture techniques here to try to capture water, to slow down water, to utilize what nature is telling me to utilize. This was a little stream that always would hold water. I opted that this would be a good spot to make a little bit bigger, so I dug it out, and then with the help of the ducks, with their feet and their bills and such like that, they have turned this into a pond that usually holds water, I would say 300 days out of 365. The water's usually above those white things, and I actually have those in there so I know the water level. Totally. Trying to recycle, I couldn't figure out a way. I didn't want to throw those away, so I was trying to figure out another use for them. So we're also going to walk over. I'm going to show you another really fun project that is really easy to do for everyone, and it's pretty inexpensive. Back to the fence. Some leftover hay. Oh, also, these tubs, if you can get your hand on these and you're doing any type of homesteading, there is so many things that you can do. There's so many things that you can end up doing with those tubs, even if they've had some harsh chemicals in it. Like I was afraid this one did, so this has been actually sitting out and letting the algae and such clean it naturally and pull some of the stuff out of the plastic, and then I'll wipe it down again. And depending on I'll run some water through it and see if I can do some testing of some water, and then decide if I'm going to run another season like this. But you can turn these into great water catchment. You can turn them into hydroponics. You can turn them into a big variety of stuff. There's another one of my buns. So some of my rabbits, they've got out, and I just let them run around because they've done a good job of they've got a good job of discovering where to go and such. So this was a workshop I did 2 years ago where I taught people how to make shiitake mushrooms. And I like these smaller logs because they're easy for older folks or for kids to handle. But yeah, these are some shiitake mushroom logs that are growing, and then some of the other logs that have some other mushrooms and such on it. These are another type of shelf mushroom that is edible. But these for sure, because they're coming right out of the plugs, because I don't know if you can see, there's two, like right there's a plug and right there's a plug, and they're coming out of the places that I plugged it. So shiitake mushrooms, easy, just grab some decent wood, let it season for 1 season or 2, and then just drill the plugs, and you can pick up the shiitake mushroom plugs online for so oak is the best, but you can use any type of hardwood that doesn't have an antifungal built in. So like you would not want to use a black walnut. You would not want to use, there's 1 or 2 hickories that have a built-in antifungal, but oaks are what I normally, are my normal go-to when it comes to doing shiitake mushroom logs. Stay away from pine. It's also not a very, that sap and such is not bueno. You could use maple. The thing with maple is that the tree's not gonna, your log's not gonna last those long. These logs right here, these ones should last about 5 or 6 years before they really start getting broken down. So I should be able to get multiple years out of this. And this was just an experiment. I'm going to try some bigger ones. I got a bunch of trees that fell this year. So I'm going to, in the spring. Oh, sweet. Yes, I would love to talk about trees. Trees are one of my absolute favorite things in the entire world. Now we're going to jump on trees here for a second just because I like talking about trees. So Appalachia naturally has, I believe there's 157 or some different tree species, and my goal is to have 200 different tree species on my property. So I've been going through and I've identified, I think, 35 so far, and if you see that line of pine trees, I actually have planted, on average, I plant between 1,000 to 2,000 trees a year. So I do it for my own reasons. I also do it for that. I also do it for the reason that if there is, I don't necessarily believe of climate change the way they're trying to sell it to us. But if planting trees can help any way, I enjoy planting trees, and I'm going to plant as many trees as I can in my lifetime. How about we'll stop with there. But yes, I love trees, and it would be interesting to talk with you to get some ideas of some trees out west that may be able I can get to survive here, or trees really from any region that's not Appalachia that I could get to survive here, and then any proper maintenance that I should do with those trees that would be spectacular. I do have, and I can't walk to it right now, but I have 3 American chestnuts growing on the property, and I know where an American chestnut is that the last couple years is definitely blight ridden, but has produced seeds and such like that. And I also know where some ones have some sprouts coming up, and I've transplanted some of those sprouts. So while I know I'll never be able to save them, it is fun knowing that I have a couple American chestnuts. But yes, going back to the shiitake mushroom logs, you can get on Amazon. I used to have a link. I have a link on my website. bisontreecare.com. I will do that. Thank you. My email address is xdrfirefly@gmail.com. So that's what you'll be looking for from me. And yes, I still use Gmail because I'm lazy. I'll just put it that way. I've tried a bunch of the other ones, but I'm just going to say I'm lazy. But anyways, yeah, that's cool. I'm super excited to talk more about trees but where was I going with that? Cycle background. Oh, shiitake mushrooms. So yeah, the shiitake mushroom plugs are totally worth getting. It's a fun experiment. It does take a little while, so I would suggest doing it soon. Okay. Actually, I do have a question for you. Let's walk over and maybe you can answer this. Because I am unsure what to do in this scenario, and I'm currently just kind of letting it do its thing. But if you have any additional advice, I am open to listen to. So I have a Italian plum, and it produces some of the greatest plums you will ever see. But this happened. So, and the tree is pretty much covered. The tree is pretty much covered with it, so. I don't know if I can get it any closer. It's that typical thing that plum trees get. And unfortunately, let me see if I spin around so you can actually see it from a different angle. The sun's kind of blocking it there. But as you can see, the, I forget what it's called. I used to know what it's called. Pretty much has taken over 90 or so % of the tree. Some folks have told me to... No, they're not galls. They're, it's a type of like black fungus. It's very common with certain types of fruit trees. I forget what it's called. I'm trying to decide if I trim the heck out of this tree, if I should bother doing that, or if I should just say, you know what, I'm just going to let the tree be a tree and let it self-prune and try to see if it will survive. Because, I mean, honestly, like, if I would prune this tree, it would be down to, you know, maybe one small branch. And right now, man, this tree in the last 2 years have super produced tons and tons of tons and tons of plums. And it's not really affecting any of my other trees. And I've got trees in a very close vicinity. So, I'm still not sure. I'm always open for different ideas to see what folks think. So if anything ever comes to mind about this, you don't have to answer it now. Hort oil, okay. I will definitely try that. That is something that I am totally worth trying, that I would totally try, because I've heard good things, and that's a fairly easy without being super destructive. But let me finish back up on what I was saying about the shiitake mushrooms. So the shiitake mushrooms, you should definitely buy the logs. You should definitely get on Amazon, or if you want to visit my page, I think I still have a link to it on there. And get the shiitake mushroom plugs and start plugging your own. And even if you don't want to keep them outside, even if you want to do it inside, and keep it in your basement or such like that, or stick it in your fridge, it is absolutely great to start now. And future you will absolutely love that now you started a cool, fun crop to grow. And if you get good at it, shiitake mushrooms, there's a pretty good market just about everywhere for shiitake mushrooms to grow. So since I'm outside, I'm going to walk one other place with you guys, since I got a couple people. But I think just a heads up, we're probably about 20 minutes or so I'll have to go, because looking at my battery, my phone is being sad. And I didn't bring my plug with me today. But I'm going to show you another gardening tactic for those that may have some extra land, but it may not be the best. We're going to walk over to where I'm trying it's called the Ruth Strout method. It's where you are using straw bales to build soil and to help kill the grass and such underneath of it, so that the nutrient stays into that. And then in the spring, you're ready to just plant you're ready to plant seeds just right into the soil. Oh, there's a princess tree. I keep that because, like I said, I'm trying to have as much diversity of trees as possible, but I know a lot of people think that those trees are junk trees. So there's my hayfield. If you guys like to see, there's my my nice rolling hayfield. So I have 33 acres here. And right now each section has its own little purpose and its own little use. But as I expand more and try more experiments, my lab will get a little bit bigger. And I'll be able just to support more people, and we'll be able to support more food to help more people. So this is the Ruth Strout method. So you just you mow your grass down really low, and then in the fall you just put heavy amounts of hay down, and the idea is it's going to kill the grass. It's also going to keep the soil a little bit warmer, so you can plant a little bit earlier in the spring. And then what you do in the spring is you come in here and you dig down until you get the soil, and then you would plant in there, and then you just cover it back up, and voila, less work, more food. And yes, the problem with using hay is you are going to have some natural weeds that are going to live and grow in that as well. But that's just the nature of the beast. kind of what I view is something that you just kind of have to deal with. Yes, it's very good for zucchini, squash, pumpkins, lots of stuff like that. It's not so good for tomatoes. I usually just start most of my tomatoes inside, and then I get a good one growing, and then I just clone the heck out of that tomato because tomatoes are so easy to clone. I'll do another. If you visit my website, the mavensinstitute.xyz, and you go to the workshop page, I've got a whole tutorial on how to do tomato cloning. And I clone tomatoes just because if you find a really good one, you can clone tomatoes, and then you can, right before the first frost comes, you can bring those clones inside, and you can keep them alive all winter long. And then you can start with tomatoes that you absolutely love, and get a nice jump start to the season. And you can actually take that plant, and if you grow it really well inside, you can clone off of that again, and you can ultimately have a bunch of your favorite tomato plants started and ready to go really early in the season. And so start ready to have some tomatoes. So yeah, this is my what I call my boneyard. This is where all the projects that I need to find something go. So it's a mess, but you never know when you actually need that one thing, and you don't want to have to drive 30 minutes to the grocery store or 30 minutes to town to get what you need. So we're going to jump back in my car. I'm going to take it back to the house, and I think then I'm going to have to put the phone on the charger because it's already beeped at me telling me that we're at 16. I will. I'm working on a couple different hydroponic setups right now. So when I find one that I'm comfortable teaching someone about, I'm doing a lot of experiments because I have a lot of people ask me a variety of questions when it comes to hydroponics and when it comes to things of that sort. And I want to be able to answer all of their questions. And so I want to do some of the stuff, the easy, simple, crazy ways that people do things. So a lot of times I'll try things, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that people also do things that I'm trying. But yes, when I get my hydroponic system set up, I will probably do from how I constructed it. I'll probably deconstruct it, rebuild it, so we can see it from the ground up, because I've built it entirely myself from just locally sourced materials. Yeah, I'm also working on an outside exoponic system that uses human urine as its main fertilizer. I worked with a college professor out of Rhode Island who was explaining to me how that works and how great human urine is into a hydroponic or water system. And so I'm really working on that. Is something that I would like to do outside in the very future. So that'll be another system that I'm working on. But right now, what I use mostly in my hydroponic system is I use fish emulsions, because I run a handful of fish tanks, and so I just take those fish emulsions, and that's what I use. So I don't have to go out and buy a bunch of proper fertilizer and things of that sort, because sometimes I get nervous when I have to buy certain amounts of fertilizer, because if I don't completely trust the company or know everything about the company, there's always fearful that they're hiding something in that, or there is a chemical in there that we'll find out later is not necessarily good for folks. So, and the whole thing with the exoponic system is right now I one of my side ventures is I build composting toilets. I build they're called permaculture toilets, where worms actually break down the human feces. And right now we're going through state parks and some of the impoverished areas, and we're using those to replace porta potties and pit toilets, because both of those are just damn nasty. And so anytime that we can replace that. The other perk is the worms in 6 days will break down the human feces, so it's pretty much compost. And so it'll do some pretty amazing things. And they're very, if you do it yourself, they're very inexpensive. if you buy our kits, they're not my kits, I'm just the spokesperson, but if you go through and you get some of our kits, it's cheaper than building a outhouse or a porta potty. But I can show you ways but we've used this. Oh, that would be, yes, I do not have any ponderosas here. That would be spectacular. I would love to try to grow some ponderosa here. That would be really cool. But yeah, one day I'll also do a video of the composting toilet. In this spring, I'll be doing a workshop here on the grounds. We'll be teaching everyone how to make these composting toilets. They're real popular. This was actually used to help eradicate the guinea worm in Africa. That's actually where this technology came from, and then we just started utilizing it here in the United States. And I've been involved in 10 builds so far, so I'm going to do a workshop here in the spring with that. Yes, my address is on the site. If the PO box, if you can't send it to a PO box, send me a message, and I will give you my physical address. So, what's so great about this vermiculture composting toilet is that the worms are actually doing all the work, and finding the right worms and having the right worm load completely breaks down human feces to the point where it is, not only is it so much less to clean out, but the disease vector is gone. So if you're afraid of any type of diseases or things of that sort, in the 6 days with the right worm load, you don't have to worry anything about disease. So that's actually very useful for us when we're doing stuff out in the county where people are living in the hollers and they don't have access to running water or electric or lots of stuff. They're just really living there. Putting this here just makes things great. And actually, even in some of the places in the park, having these back in the woods and back in some of these spots. So it's yeah, in the spring when I go through my workshop and such, I'll break everything down. But if you want to, also on the Mavis Institute, if you go through, you'll see where it says VMP. You can get on there and you can see some of the information and some of the worksheets and such that we have on there. So yes, it was wonderful talking with you as well. Thanks again for interaction, and everybody else, I am going to head in. I'm at 11 battery life, and so I should probably take off. So you guys all have a wonderful rest of the day. You'll see the stream pop up again, but it'll just end up being a... Okay, cool. Yes, I can definitely put that oil on before they leaf out. I can do a little bit this fall, and I can definitely do some in the early spring. So I'm going to try that this year. That sounds like a great tactic. That sounds like something that I am totally game on trying. So I will definitely do that. So anyways, to everyone else, my stream will go back online. It'll just be Alan Watts and Crow 777 and some music. And I might do another little talk through later on this evening. And if not, I will see you guys all around this time tomorrow. So you guys have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. And thanks again for everybody that stay tuned and all the great information. So adios, guys.